My name is Ann Makepeace. My maiden name was Ann Gross. My great-great-great-grandfather was the original builder of the hotels that occupied this space. The original hotel was built in 1856 by Philip Gross, who had come over from Seibersbach, Germany, the Rhineland area. He had gone originally to Milwaukee briefly, stayed with his son, and then took his second wife and family here to New Ulm. Her name was Magdalena Graf. So we always wondered, why did this original ancestor of ours come to New Ulm? Well, he had a second wife and family. His first wife had died in Germany in 1850. So when he came here, he basically built the first hotel here, which was called the Minnesota House. That was built again in 1856. That burned in 1860, and in 1860 he built a two-story building, which we have actually a photograph of. And that building stayed in existence until 1874. On July 4th, 1874, that building burned down. So the building that we're standing in now was designed by Julius Barendt, and he was the designer of the Herman Monument. So he was in town earlier than the Herman Monument was built, and in 1875 this building was built. The first two stories, it was built in brick this time, and so now it has continued to exist. It did not burn down. We have photographs of the building in later years too, from 1899 when the third story was added. So in this back hall you'll see other historic photographs of the building. So the building in 1875 was a two-story brick building, and the current building is 3 stories, and we know that from looking at pictures that the top of the building now is exactly the same as it was in 1875, because we always say they inserted a second floor, another brick floor. You can see a difference in the windows, and you can see a difference in the brick on the front of the building, but that third story was added, and the hotel was renamed at that point the Grand Hotel. Prior to that, it had been the Union Hotel from 1875. Actually, from 1860 on, it was the Union Hotel until 1899. My ancestor, I also have a family photo here that shows the original builder of the building and his son, grandson, and great-grandson, who is my grandfather. And they were in Milwaukee. And again, they were hardware merchants, so we know that Philip Gross traveled to New Ulm. I have letters between my great-grandfather and grandfather talking about trips to New Ulm. My family found out about this building in 1993, and my father and I traveled to New Ulm, and we did put a marker on the building in 1998 that described the history of the building. At that time, my dad had a cane that had been presented to the owner of this building, Philip Gross, in 1887 by his son in Milwaukee. We know that that son traveled here from letters that I have between my great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather. So where I'm standing right now is currently the bar area of the Grand Cabaret, and I'm standing in front of what was the Dakota Hotel's front desk. And I was able to get this at one point. Barb Haraldson had it in her shop in town, and when she closed her store, I was able to have 6 guys carry this marble and leather and wood front desk down here, and now it's the bar at our hotel. There's a picture on the wall of Patty Rodewald, who standing in front of this at the Dakota Hotel. Also of note in this room is the ceiling. Much of the ceiling tiles are from the original ceiling that we found in the kitchen, so they could have been from as early as the 1860s or 1870s. Also, these posts that are here were given to me by a judge here in town who, when the Brown County Courthouse was renovated, he had them in storage, and I repurposed them to be posts for the Grand Hotel. So they're probably, I suppose, from the 1880s. So we're standing here in what is now the Grand Cabaret, and this would have been the saloon back in 1875 when the building was built. We think that on the floor here there's some markings that look to be where either the front desk of the hotel was or a drip ledge of a bar. And behind me are the original windows. So this building was an Italianate building built in 1875, designed by Julius Barendt, and we preserved the original windows. On the walls to my left, there is a Scottish red deer, and that would have been given to us by a German man, Bernd Hillman, and it's just representative of our German heritage here. He actually carved, he shot the deer in Scotland, he mounted it, and he carved the wood base that it's on. So we put that there in the corner. And then to my left, there's a kind of a vignette of Whoopie John, who everybody knows Whoopie John in New Ulm. George's ballroom poster, probably from the 1960s. And then we also have an accordion that would have been up at Klaus Accordion, given to us by a former board chair, Linda Beck. On the wall to my right are a number of things, including an old photograph of our building, of the building here, and some Czech puppets, because of the German Bohemian heritage, a Czech lion and a Shell's wooden piece and another deer head. And the puppet represents the good soldier Švejk, and he was a folk hero in the Czech Republic. He was kind of a ne'er-do-well a ne'er-do-well guy who drank too much. He's got a beer in his hand, and there are entire books written about the good soldier Švejk. And so both those puppets are that soldier from the Czech Republic. So in this part of the building, there's a staircase to my right, and that staircase would have, we think, gone up to the hotel. And above that staircase, when we bought the building, there was a doorway there, and we filled it in. Wanda Gog is now on the what was the doorway, famous Wanda Gog, and that's actually a newer picture that we bought to put up to represent her, famous writer and artist from New Ulm. The other two pictures behind me are represent two other New Ulmites. The one nearest the door is Tippi Hedren, who was from New Ulm, or Lafayette, some say. And the one next to that is a photograph by Flip Schulke, who was a New Ulm native, and he took that picture of Muhammad Ali. It was on the cover of Life magazine. And then next to that, kind of in between all of that, is an old case of some of the remnants of what we found when we renovated the building. We originally renovated this first floor in 2001. And so we tore up many layers of flooring in this room and to reveal this wood floor. We found lots of wallpaper, and so there's wallpaper, there's old flooring in there. There's pieces of the hotel china. There's bottles that were found during some of the renovations, salt shakers, knives, forks, old tin cans and things that we found in the building. This is the staircase that goes down to now Cellar Press, and it says Rathskeller, so a lot of people think we have a Rathskeller in the basement. We don't. That's an old German Rathskeller sign, and below that sign there are cans and bottles that came from Shell's, from Schlitz Brewery in Milwaukee, from a German flea market, and on the wall there's also a Schnitzelbank song from Mater's Restaurant in Milwaukee. We do have people who play the Schnitzelbank song, including Ben Marty from our stage, and so we pull that out and people sing along with the song. So under the Rathskeller sign, there's original flooring that would have been on this floor. In the room that I'm standing in now, we were unable to restore that flooring, but that's what's left of the floor in this room. The floor in the cabaret side was restored, and that is from 1875. I'm standing in front of a window that would have been built in 1875. When we purchased the building in the year 2000, this entire wall and all these windows were boarded up with rough cut pine. There was a fudge and stuff and a frame gallery were in the building. So we pulled the rough cut pine off and found the windows behind the pine. We had the windows taken out, and at that time wooden windows, restored them. It took about 6 months because each window had to be refitted. They had to redo, pieces of them were missing, but we basically restored the 1875 windows. So that was about 20 years ago, and now we're at the point where we are putting new wooden storms on the windows this summer because they've deteriorated, and we're getting better wooden storms, and we're going to maintain them, and hopefully they'll last even longer than that. And below here is wainscoting, and that would have been what was on the building or here at the time in 1875 likely, or 1899 for sure. We used the rough cut pine and we remilled it and made wainscoting, and Larry Mack, who helped us in like 2001 and 2002 and still helps us, helped us put all the windows, got the windows back together, and also did the wainscoting with us. He also worked on the floor in this room, which you'll probably see in some of the pictures. We weren't able to save the original floor, but we put plywood all over the floor, and it's absolutely level. Larry did a fabulous job. I'm standing on the kitchen side and the restaurant side of the first floor of the Grand Hotel, and behind me would be the kitchen, and was the kitchen in 1875. And next to me up here on the wall is a German breadboard that might have been from that same era. And my ancestor, who built the original building here and the second and the third building, was a baker in Germany. And in fact, in 1854, I have a book that includes his recipes, that include a number of recipes that probably were made in this kitchen right behind me. And this breadboard is to signify that he was a baker, baked in this building. I actually have a letter from a woman whose grandmother used to get food here at the back door of the kitchen, and talked about what great soups and breads were made in this space here. So. In terms of this book, I have tried to translate these recipes. They're written in Old German Schrift, and I didn't know German, so first I had to learn like German words for different like sugar, Zucker. And then I had Arnold Kelpien here in town had helped me do some of the translation, and I was able to translate quite a bit of them. There are some words we can't tell, but one of the interesting things was back in the day, instead of baking powder, they used hartshorn, and so they powdered deer horns, and that's what they used to leaven bread, and that's in a lot of these recipes. There's hartshorn in here. So it's really been a kind of a cool thing, and I've never tried to make them because, like I said, there's a few items missing. We're just not sure, so at some point I'll probably try to experiment and figure it out. So. We're here in the basement of the Grand, and this foundation is an original foundation, we believe. Much of this lower level would have been here during the first two fires, the fire in 1860 and 1875, and they were good Germans, so they would have reused the basement area. And we can see by some of the kind of mortar and what's down here that it's very likely this was an original foundation. This is also, as you can see, there are a lot of presses around me. This is cellar press now, so we've turned this basement into a letterpress and printmaking studio. We poured a cement foundation, or I shouldn't say foundation, a floor, 12 years ago when we did the renovation of the building. It was a dirt floor when we bought the building in 2000. So now we're able to have presses in here. We're able to have classes down here. We actually have 11 presses. Anyway, we're excited because it's kind of a cool basement to work in, and a lot of people that do this kind of printing work actually enjoy being around this old foundation and basement. So.